Hello, welcome. This is going to be a quick little video on how to send more Army and Air volunteers. The mechanics behind it are not very well explained in the game. You just kind of guess at it unless you actually know the math. I figured I'd go through and explain it. So let's start with the one people probably know, Army volunteers, and then we'll move on to Air volunteers. The Spanish Civil War just kicked off, and currently we can send 6 volunteers. We have 119 divisions. So the math for that is quite simple. We take 119, we divide it by 20, and then we round up. So if I were to deploy one more division. Okay, that actually deployed 2 divisions. If I deploy 2 divisions, I'm now at 121. So if I go to send volunteers, I can now send 7. And that's because 121 divided by 20 is 6.05. That rounds up to 7. If I delete just one division, bring myself back down to 120, I will only be able to send 6. They work in brackets. So from 121 to 140, you can send 7. From 101 to 120, you can send 6. Now there is a limit to this, and that is their number of provinces. So if I just train up another 22 divisions, let's say, that would allow us to send 8, right? Now I've got 142 divisions. So math says I should be able to send 8. But if I go in, I'm only going to be able to send 7. That's limited by their number of provinces. Now the way this is calculated is pretty complicated. I'm not going to bother explaining it. It's just a thing you're going to have to deal with. Anyways, that's Army volunteers. The best way to spam out divisions is to just grind 5 Army experience and then create an empty template and just add a single cap to it and then deploy them as soon as you can. So that's sending Army volunteers. Now let's go into Air volunteers. So if we go here, it says we can send up to 168 of our planes. So let's just wait for them to accept that. And that's the number we see here. Now, how do we increase that amount? Well, to increase that amount, we need to know what that amount is. That amount is 2 numbers. One, your number of planes. So if we go in here, we have 200 deployed plus a bunch in stockpile. So if I pull up my calculator and we add these up, we got 200 plus 280 plus 80 plus 280. So that's 840. If we take this and divide it by 5, we'll get 168. And that's exactly how many you can send. And that's because you can send 20 planes per 100 you own, stockpile, and deployed. So if you want to send more planes, you need to have more planes. So if we just go in and we add in, let's say 160 planes, 160 fighter ones, adding that in will give us 1,000. And the game updates immediately, we can send 200. So if we instead add another 200, that should allow us to send 240. And we can. If we do that again, notice the number didn't change. That's because there is a cap to this. The cap is based on their total number of air bases. Now that can be a little difficult to determine if they have a lot of land all over the place, but right now it's kind of easy. So we can just pull up our calculator and we can see all of their air bases. So we have 200 plus 600 plus 400 plus 600 plus 600. Now divide that by 200, that is their number of air base levels. If we multiply this number by 20, it's 240. So that's your limit. The country you're sending planes to, their number of air bases multiplied by 20 is your cap. So if we want to be able to send Spain more planes, we would need to either capture an airbase. There's an airbase down here, there's one up here, or if this is multiplayer, you can get the Spanish player to build an airbase. So those are the ways you can increase the amount of volunteers you can send. Certain countries like Bulgaria gets focuses that allow them to send extra volunteers. So right here, the support the Spanish coup allows them to send an extra 3 volunteer forces. Anyways, that's how sending Army and Air volunteers is determined. I figured I'd make a video on it because some people seemed a little confused, especially about air volunteers. I don't think a lot of people knew how air volunteers worked. They just kind of accepted that they could send some, and however many that was is just the number they could send. Anyways, thank you for watching.